Its lustreless eyes, which seemed half decomposed in black cavities, stared into mine. The horrible smell, which had before offended my nostrils, only 100 times more intensified, came up into my face, filling me with a deadly nausea. It was the smell of a decomposing corpse. My friends, who are cleverer about the occult things, say it was an elemental.
Love Castle has long been regarded as one of Ireland's most notoriously haunted destinations. Located in Kildare, County Offaly, Ireland, this historical structure has garnered worldwide attention and has been featured on a number of television shows, catering to an audience with a fascination for the supernatural, including Ghost Hunters and TV's Most Haunted. But what is the history behind this infamous castle, and what is at the root of its sinister reputation? The dates related to the construction of Love Castle are a bit ambiguous. Some say the castle was erected in the 12th century, while others claim it came to exist in the 15th century. Whatever the timing of its origin, Love Castle was built over an existing site previously occupied by Druids who used the property for initiation ceremonies, which leads to the origin of its name and calamitous circumstances surrounding it. One of the most notorious spirits of Love Castle is that of the Red Lady, a very tall specter clothed in a fluttering red gown clinging to a sharp blade. The story behind the Red Lady is that she was imprisoned by the O'Carrolls and repeatedly raped. She gave birth to a baby who was then murdered by the O'Carrolls. Overwhelmed with grief over the loss of her child, the Red Lady used a knife, her phantom bears, to put an end to the life of her torment. In the 1900s, an oubliette was discovered behind a wall in the chapel that contained human skeletons amassed on wooden spikes. So many, in fact, that it would take 3 cartloads to remove all of them. It is believed that the sadistic O'Carrolls would drop unsuspecting guests through the trapdoor to be impaled by spears 8 feet below. In the 1600s, the castle switched ownership. It was not a peaceful passing along of the ownership torch, however. As the story goes, the daughter of the reigning O'Carroll chieftain became smitten with an English prisoner in one of the castle's dungeons, a Captain Darby. The O'Carroll daughter would regularly sneak food down to Darby, and the two concocted plans to elope. Late one night, she snuck down to the dungeons, freed Darby, and the two began their grand escape from Love Castle. Their getaway was cut short, however, when they ran into the girl's brother on the stairwell. The two commenced in a sword fight where Darby emerged the victor. Upon the death of the O'Carroll son, the daughter became heiress to the castle. The newly married Darbys took over the castle to start their own family and invested in expansions and renovations. Captain Darby was a bit temperamental and became known as the Wild Captain. He had amassed his own treasures in a battle, which he hid in compartments scattered throughout the property. The Wild Captain was later imprisoned for treason in Dublin, but was later allowed to return to Love Castle. Years of imprisonment had driven the Wild Captain to the brink of madness, and when he was unable to recall where he had hidden his fortune, as the legend goes, it still remains in Love Castle, and on certain evenings where the energies favor the spirits, you can see the phantom of the Wild Captain searching the grounds for his lost treasure. Now, Mildred Darby, one of the captain's ancestors, was a Gothic novelist who regularly performed seances within the walls of the castle. It was Mildred Darby's supernatural practices that awakened an elemental presence of an incredibly dark magnitude. Just what this elemental presence is manifested from is anybody's guess. Some say that the elemental was put there by the Druids even before Love Castle was ever even built in order to protect it, while others say it's the spirit of one of the O'Carrolls who died of leprosy. Mildred Darby claims to have seen this evil up close and described it as a thin, gaunt, and shadowy, and emitting the smell of a rotting corpse. The Darbys abandoned Love Castle in 1922, At that time, Ireland was fighting for its independence from England, and given the Darbys were an English family, Leap Castle was a prime target for revolt. Shortly after the Darbys' departure, the castle was bombed and looted by the IRA, who hung peacocks from meat hooks along the tower. A friend of the Darbys lived in the castle briefly until she was ravaged by gangrene. And from then on, Leap Castle lay dormant until it was purchased in the 70s by an Australian historian, Peter Bartlett. The Ryans have been plagued with freak accidents since living in Leap Castle. One resulted in a broken kneecap that delayed restoration. Once the renovation resumed, another accident left Ryan with a broken ankle. The castle's malevolent history and creepy inhabitants didn't stop the Ryans from conducting their newborn baby's christening in the haunted Bloody Chapel. This joyous event was a nice juxtaposition to the carnage and bloodshed that cursed this room for generations. Today, the castle is still privately owned by the Ryans. While you cannot stay overnight in Leap Castle, there are plenty of hotels in the vicinity, and Sean Ryan welcomes fascinated tourists who want to experience the grounds firsthand. Mr. Ryan has even been known to open his doors to visitors and grant them a private tour of Leap Castle.